Hello and welcome to the Hackurate podcast, where we discuss things hacky and accurate, and also talk about other stuff. I'm Nathan Goodman.
I'm Aaron Howe.
Yeah, we're here. We're back. It's been a while.
It's been, I believe, 17 days since our last podcast.
You don't have to count it like that.
Well, yeah, it's just, funsies, getting in the groove of it. It's been a weird month. It's been a video game month for me.
Yeah,
Really
well,
gaming.
It's also just Phoenix seasonal depression month when it's the hottest and bleakest and hardest to do anything and focus on anything.
Right? It is kind of the opposite of
you go outside and your
seasonal affective
brain gets scrambled.
Yeah.
And you come back inside and you're like, what just happened?
Yeah, you're just outside and your body's kind of like...
Did I have a brush with death?
Yeah, like...
Did I walk into a pot of
shock.
boiling water and then walk back out of it?
It's like you start getting those, temperature variation chills. If you keep going in and out of the hot heat, your body just starts being like, am I like dying?
Yeah.
I'm just quivering over here.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes when I'm riding my car, the cold air like hurts a little bit. And I'm just like, this is too much. I need it, but right now it's too much. The surface of the surface of my skin is 100 degrees right now.
Yeah. The other day I was walking into work and I'd started my car. I got my AC running. It was relatively cool by the time I got there. Get out of my car, walk about like a minute to the door. And like right before I get there, like I feel that sensation of all the pores on top of my scalp suddenly being like, it's time to dump. We gotta start sweating. I was just like, ugh, dang, right before I got there, right before you get into work. It's always weird. It's bizarre.
Not getting away from it.
No, you're not. Not out here. Not this Christmas or any Christmas. It's getting hotter. But I mean, the rain was pretty nice.
Yeah. It's supposed to dip off, but it'll probably still be like this until October. Yeah.
Hot-tober, everybody.
It's going to be a Halloween. Halloween.
You walk outside onto the pavement and be like, oh, Halloween. Yeah, it was stupid. It wasn't worth going there.
Like you're howling at the moon because of how hot it is. Ow.
Ow. You walk
Don't
out
touch
at
that
night.
pavement.
Yeah, just trying to get
More
your
at 6.
toesies on some slab rock.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do it.
If you're going to werewolf, you got to wear dog shoes. If you're going to turn into a full werewolf in Phoenix, you have to wear dog shoes still.
You definitely have to be a werewolf and know what to wear. You got to be a
you're going to bed. You're going to bed in your dog booties. You got to wear them to bed. So when you werewolf up, you don't get little burns on your werewolf feet.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because if you wake up in the middle of the night, you have to shit. Obviously, because you're a dog, you got to go outside. I mean, you're a werewolf, but you got to go outside.
You're already outside. You've turned.
I don't know why I imagined a house.
all werewolves are shitting outside. We got to stop these werewolves. Where's the city ordinances on where mythical creatures are allowed to defecate in the streets? Apparently anywhere. I didn't see it when I looked last week.
Well, I wouldn't imagine they're allowed in gated communities.
City ordinances are surprisingly hard to thumb through when you look them up.
Maybe parks.
Maybe parks.
They allow a lot of things in parks. Maybe they're going to allow that.
I guess if you're werewolfing also, you need to be carrying around like dog shit bags also. You're like in dog booties, picking up your own poop in a park at like 3 a.m. on a full moon.
You have a werewolf size like fanny pack that's got some bags in it.
Just like guys out there like power biking already before the sun comes up, or just seeing you like, what the fuck?
This is like a super conscious, like definitely the a werewolf brought me to life.
You're socially conscious, like you're out there praying, but you don't want to get arrested for disconduct,
right? I mean,
bad conduct in public.
You have to stalk at the night and try to like eat people, but you don't have to leave shit everywhere.
No, don't do it. And you get the advantage of being quieter because you're wearing don't hurt your foot dog shoes. It's all coming together. Werewolfing Phoenix. That's our new. It's going to be our new story.
Right.
Storyline.
Shaves his hair down though. So it just looks like a weird
shaved on the sides,
dog.
but like because everybody gets undercuts.
Oh yeah.
And because it's so hot, he has like undercuts under like weird areas of his body.
For some reason,
Like, why do you have a mohawk down your arms and like your chest?
He
And it's like,
shaves
it's hot.
shaves his muscles on his chest, but like where the shadow would be, leaves hair for some reason.
But it grows every time, so he's not having to shave every time.
Hey, he's an werewolf.
out.
I can't explain it. If you think he's gonna pick up his poop and not be hygienic and try to also do some scaping, some werewolf scaping.
Yeah.
I guess I also was assuming as a guy. Anyway,
Werescaping. Werescape.
This wolf individual.
Sponsored by Werescaped.
Wolfscape. Oh, no, I like Werescape. That's good.
Wolfscape sounds weird.
Werescaped for all your scape and wear
Sounds
needs.
like they're like, we need a zoo guy. Well, why? Because the wolfscaped.
Yeah.
It's out here.
Nice.
Running around.
Wolf.
So anyway, when we last left the audience, you fellows out there, we had 2 more episodes of Stars on Mars. I didn't expect it to come to a close. They
really wrapped up.
wrapped up fast.
2.
There was like 6 people, and then there were
And
5 people, and then 1 person. They
went
jumped
from
down.
5 to 1 in the final episode, which was pretty bananas.
Stars on Mars.
But first, before we get to the final episode 10, or is that 11? Yeah, so episode 10, where, spoilers, heads up, Marshawn Lynch went home, unfortunately. But at that point, they were kind of down to they're all pretty great people.
Oh, yeah.
So
I mean,
it's hard to see any of them go.
That was
point.
definitely, that round was like, they were playing the game wrong, I feel like.
Yeah.
The people who wanted to stay didn't really know like what it would have taken to stay because of kind of how that challenge like played out. They separated like the whole team into 2 teams of 3.
Yeah.
And then, they put Adam, who had been performing really well, with the 2 newer people, and then the 3 people who had also been there longest were all on a team because they were all friends.
Yeah.
And then Adam was by himself, which gave him the drive to try even harder to not be in the team that was in the bottom. I definitely think they misplayed that, or at least, he was definitely one of the stronger teammates, but also putting the 2 like newer people on the same team was also a mistake. You should have separated them.
Yeah,
and had it be like an easier chance.
The whole time they were there, it felt like they were always just kind of just slotted together.
Tones.
Like they were assigned basically
base
similar
commander and
roles the whole
assistant at the same time.
Yeah, like their whole thing was like, we're this duo.
Yeah,
because we got here separately, and it was just like, well, you never expanded out of that, and because of, I think how that one lady, the Iron Chef lady, was acting, no one tried to reach out to her because she immediately showed up and was like,
right,
I'm mad.
Right.
I'm mad that y'all put me in the bottom, and they're just like, that's the way it goes.
Yeah. Somebody has to be at the bottom.
Yeah. And, yes, you were outside, but ultimately your task was using a screwdriver.
Yeah.
It's hard, but it's not
that hard.
It wasn't as mission critical in that scenario.
Yeah. And I mean, that was also like, if you wanted to play the game, you have to be more secretive with making it obvious you're going against the team.
Yeah.
Because it's still a team based until the end. And that's why the people didn't want you on the team. But it didn't matter because their team ended up winning that last challenge. And the 3 people who had been there the longest, Tinashe and Portia and Marshawn, lost because they weren't running as fast as Adam was.
Yeah, man.
And moving things around. Legs. So they had to go out in like the wilderness and spend the night.
Yeah.
And then elect one from the 3 of them to walk back and like save them, I guess, or get more air or whatever.
Well, there wasn't enough air for all 3 of them, so one of them had to take the supplemental oxygen from the rover and walk back. Run back.
There it is, yeah. And then the other 2 just ended up walking back and voting who went home. But like Tinashe just laid there with all her clothes on and was like, just vote me. Vote me. You know you're going to vote me. And then they're just like, all right, you. Yeah. And she hopped up and ran. And that was pretty funny. That was all pretty obvious. Like Marshawn knew he wasn't going to like go against the 2 ladies that were his friends. I feel like he was just trying to be honorable without saying it, which is honorable.
Yeah.
He definitely went out the most honorable way.
Yeah. No, he did, I think overall, like for the whole show, a pretty stellar job.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was in it, used his like athleticism when he needed to,
Yeah.
but also like had a good attitude about things overall.
Yeah.
And then got involved in the politics when he needed to or wanted to.
Yeah.
That was cool.
But he definitely kept his distance, like for the most part, would only really speak up when people were, I think, being like, more irrational in their decision making process. And he's just like, hey, it's not about this. Like, let's refocus, like, on what's actually happening, what our real concerns are. So, like, he had a few moments where he's just like, nope, that's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely wasn't able to like articulate as well, but I feel like when you're in close quarters and you can't just like get away, like after a meeting, you can't like just say everything you want to say. You have to say some of what you're trying to say. Say what you mean to say.
Well, he
say what you want to say.
Definitely did a great job, I think, of like, I think he's the person who emphasized teamwork the most.
Yeah.
Like in at least that we saw on screen, as far as like having conversation, he was just like, when it comes to team stuff, this is what's more important.
Yeah, I mean the athletes were doing really well.
Yeah,
overall,
up until they started getting like iced, and then they're just
well,
like,
yeah.
Uh-oh.
When things weren't athletic and they started getting bummed out because they weren't being athletic and they were away from their families, they were like, "I'm bored.
Yeah, I'm not being challenged.
I'm not being challenged anymore. This kind of blows."
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, maybe we don't talk about the final finale. We save that.
Save it for like the next episode?
Yeah. Because then if somebody listens to this, it's just going to be spoiled all at once instead of
that's a good point. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
But so that was a good episode.
Yeah. It was kind of a bummer that Marshawn ended up leaving. I was really cheering for him, but I could definitely tell with his attitude, he didn't have he didn't have the drive to win necessarily.
Yeah, he just
wasn't
like
having fun and enjoying the experiment. Yeah. And I feel like when he knew he was going to start having to like vote off other people that he liked, that wasn't really going to be like an option.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Yeah, he definitely seemed to be more into like the friend making like actual friends aspect of it than a lot of them.
Yeah. Making friends with different kinds of people.
I think a lot of them were like, it's been great. We're all part of a group, but at the end of the day, we're still trying to like beat each other.
Yeah.
And he was definitely just like, oh, I'm friends with this lady. I'm friends with this lady. I'm friends with Lance. Just
yeah. And I definitely think he's trying to like
to be really
jumpstart his like post football like acting or like reality personality career. I feel like I saw, because after we started watching Stars on Mars, his like Instagram video started popping up. It was like, this is him going to the space like command center. This is him going to Chili's. This is him going to doing Bear Grylls Into the Wild show. And I'm just like, what the fuck, dude?
Right? He's
just like, I'm bored and I got money. I'm just gonna do stuff. But
when he's going to be in that movie too, that's coming out, remember?
I don't remember what.
I don't remember what it was, but I remember seeing.
I saw his face. Yeah. Like Mars Sean from Stars on Mars Sean.
Stars on Mars Sean. That would have been perfect had he won. But yeah, he went out real well.
Yeah.
And we won't spoil that last episode. You're gonna have to wait. Let's see.
Yeah, but since we last left you, we've fallen into a deep, dark hole of watching 60 Days In.
60 Days In.
On
I'll let Nathan give you a brief summary of what that is.
Yeah, it's kind of a lot. So they're taking, they already have like 7-8 seasons at this point, so you may or may not know what this is, but some context, they take people from, the wild, random places in life, either military or random, jobs or just ex-CEOs or just people that are doing, whatever and feel like they are up to a challenge and they put them into jail, not prison, just jail for 60 days or at least attempt to make it through 60 days, which doesn't seem that long, but I suppose when you're not able to like count super like efficiently by like keeping track, maybe on paper or something, it probably meshes together. And boy, is it wild. Boy, do things happen that you do not expect. And it will give you real life, full physical anxiety. You go out into the real world and you might be looking at people going, that guy doesn't respect me. He just drove a different kind of way. So if you're overly sensitive or impressionable, be very careful treading into this show because it is definitely permeated into my dreams. It's pretty hilarious.
I mean-
I think I had a dream last night where a dog was in there. Just a dog
A dog in jail?
was in jail.
Oh, that's sad.
And they were just like, well, that's just fucking that Spot. And he was just
Whoa.
sitting on a chair. He would go into a cell as if he had the sentience of a person.
I don't think I've dreamed that
I
much.
think there were other objects in there that weren't people.
I don't think I've had that many dreams affected by it. I think I had one. That's wild.
Yeah, it was very funny. I woke up and I was like, should I tell Aaron this? And I was like, it might be funny later. No, there was definitely a dog in jail. I don't remember if I was in there or if I was just watching it. But I was just like, what's going on here? And they were like, that's just him. He's there. He just eats a sandwich.
So,
Nobody really registered that he was a dog, but he was a dog.
Wow.
Running around.
So the question begs to differ, or it begs the question. There we go.
The question begs the question.
It begs the question:
Jeez.
is he a bad dog? Because all dogs, I assume, are presumed innocent until proven guilty.
He was behaving
But he
like
could
a
be
good
bad
dog, but to be in there, he had to have been a bad dog at some point.
Right.
I guess he was peeing on a couch, or maybe he was the werewolf who wasn't picking up his dog shit in the park.
Or he could have been framed by a raccoon, breaking into the trash.
Right.
You never know.
They just started issuing tickets to dogs in the street that are shitting and not picking up their own shit, and then eventually arresting them. They're just like, this is the 6th time we've caught you, and he's like, rawr, rawr. Like, no, get in the fucking truck. So anyway,
you're going to jail for 7 days.
And they
the
also
dog's that's like 3 years.
Obviously, the prisoners don't know that the people are part of a program, but neither do the guards. And there's cameras everywhere, and the prisoners don't care that the cameras are in places.
Yeah,
like they would probably go harder in the fights, but they still do fights pretty recklessly.
Yeah, when people fight, they're definitely. It doesn't matter that they're on camera because, to be in there and not have your face blurred, they all had to sign a release, so they know they're being filmed for the show. They just don't know that there are people there working for the sheriff of whatever jail it is, in order to each of them goes in with a mission to find.
Oh yeah, the mission.
Something out about the process or the experience of being in that jail, to
how the jail runs, with the
or how drugs come into it,
of coming in when fights are starting or different stuff like that.
Yeah, so basically it's
drugs,
a way to
screening of drugs.
It's ultimately a way to try and improve the jail itself by having these people experience it from the inside.
And also, improve the prisoners' conditions. It's not just for the benefit of the sheriff. It's the benefit of everybody.
It's definitely
because
to
the
make
COs
it a more
are
humane
aggressive.
situation.
The prisoners don't have anything to do. They're bored.
Yeah.
So they just do stuff. I mean, that one guy at the end of...
It's crazy.
I think we watched season 6.
We watched
6?
5.
We watched season 5 first because it was in Arizona, and we
were like, whoa.
Obviously in Arizona, so we wanted to see what the jail that's pretty close to us.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty
overall,
close.
just kind of south of the city, operated, and that was cool to see. I have so much of the other seasons on my mind; it's hard to even remember. But
season 3 and 4 is both in Fulton County.
In Georgia,
and we binged those in the same week.
Yeah, it was dense and it was cool.
Lot.
It's very different. Like the Phoenix one had different groups. It was definitely more diverse, much like Phoenix is. It actually had the white guys, the angry white guys. You know who they are. The Hispanic gangs, because we're near the border, and then a little bit of black gangs, but they weren't as present. But then you get to Atlanta, and it's season 3 and 4, because we don't care about continuity. We watch in whatever order we want with these reality shows.
When we watched
damn
Ink
your
Masters,
rules.
we went backwards.
Reality shows and damn reality.
Right? Because see, I had this thought the other day. I was just time just doesn't exist on TV. It just doesn't.
For sure.
Between the editing and all the Hollywood fuckery. There's no such thing as a linear timeline, anyways. So
they'll show reaction shots from who cares. You don't know if that's from right then or from an episode before, and they'll mix up time frames. They'll show the same thing 3 times. They don't care.
They showed
so
one of the
why should we
interviews-
care the order that we consume these things in?
One of those ladies in Fulton County, they showed one of her verbal, talking heads 3 times about doing drugs. She was just like, you just kind of just do all the drugs. And I was just like, I've seen this several times
Just
now.
the worst.
Across an entire season.
Yeah.
But, I feel like they didn't overdo it, which is nice. Because
Yeah.
it wasn't constantly oh, here's the same clip. It was occasionally the same situation from a few different angles.
Well, yeah, they showed that one
handy.
lady screaming to the guard.
Yeah.
That one CO that one time, like probably 5 or 6 times.
Oh,
I was like, come on, we get it. She was yelling at a guard.
Yeah.
I guess I should call them COs. I shouldn't call them guards because that's aggressive.
Yeah, correction officer. But I mean, well, some of them were acting like guards.
Yeah, but I mean, I would definitely recommend it if you're just curious. It's interesting. I feel like my biggest weakness overall watching it is I end up caring less about the 60 days in people because I know they'll get out. I know they'll get out and have a good time.
You just worry about the people who are inside.
Yeah. They give us, they introduce you to a prisoner or a jail person.
An inmate.
And they show you him getting like kind of nicer to the 60 days in person. And then they show their backstory and you're like, oh, this guy's cool. And then maybe they'll get moved to another area and you're like, but what happened to that guy? What happened to happened to Too Tall, man?
Yeah, he just disappeared. But I mean, he's.
Oh no, I know what happened to him. But he's just my example because he's the name that I remember the most.
Oh yeah.
I know he probably just started running another group or kept going with his blood tendencies, which is fine. But some of the other guys that seem kind of nice, like it'd be nice if they checked up, like what is the show doing for any of these cool people afterwards?
Yeah.
Like, are you allowed to connect with them and maybe help, or are they just going to be so hurt that you lied to them that they like just shank you on sight? On sight, blood.
Yeah.
On sight.
I mean, well, and that's the thing. You got to respect the nature of whomever's in those gangs. And that's something you learn too.
It's their reality.
It is like, that's what I really liked about the show was that you got to actually see like, how people end up where they're at once they're inside of jail as far as like, alliances or like respect-based, confrontations, just all the behaviors just based off of just trying to like exist in that space where you have like no free will essentially other than trying to just exist.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it becomes such a pure form of like people just trying to like, for the most part, get to the point and just be like, hey, fuck off.
Yeah.
Or, not.
Right.
And just trying to find that balance of just like, all right, I'm here. I'm not trying to ruffle anybody's feathers. Because for the most part, everyone
you can't say fuck off without 6 guys behind you ready to jump. Because if you tell somebody to fuck off, then they all jump. Then they say it's time and they converge on you. Because you got to show respect or you got to get respect.
Yeah.
That's why they always say get in and challenge the biggest guy. But it's also like, we watched from that case. That's not really an option in a lot of ways.
It's not really an option. And it's ridiculous to like, most of the people that start that aren't doing it legitimately with the power to back it up. And that's whenever you'd see just like...
if they do have the power to back it up, then they will do that.
We saw at least 4 or 5 fights where someone's just running their mouth and then they end up getting the crap beat out of them because they just don't have the awareness of just like, dude, this guy clearly has a little bit more power, be it physical or through other people backing him up or, whatever. Just like, chill. But that's part of the interesting thing too. It's like no one like tries to help anyone understand that either, which was a lot of what we saw, at least as far as what we were shown. It's just like no one's there trying to improve the inmates' lives. Kind of what you were just saying. Like, it's just more so like it really showed the humanity involved and the lack thereof when it comes to considering like how the environment is left to persist.
Yeah, well, I think also, you kind of danced around the point of like another bigger problem. It's like that even if you like sit down and have that conversation and like try to be like civil with a person, like that ends, but it doesn't end. You're still in jail and you're still sitting 3 tables away from the person that just talked the smack.
Yeah.
And now everybody else is sitting around going like, they kind of handled that civil, but it didn't solve the fact that we're all still here. Yeah. And that makes me angry.
Yeah. Well, and that's
and then everybody around gets angry because no fight happened.
Yeah.
So then other people start beefing because there's the tension that's left unresolved because the people honestly sometimes need the tension resolver either by COs coming in.
You're locked up and you need catharsis of some form.
Oh, yeah.
And if it's not in the explosive beating up of somebody, it's at least in the viewing of somebody else beating the crap out of somebody, which is crazy.
Right.
But yeah, so ultimately, it really humanizes all the people in jail, and you're just like, I wish there was a better situation.
Right. Well, and it's also crazy. You were talking about either the groups or like having the physicality to back it up. It's like there was one dude specifically who was probably bigger, like beefier than anybody we had seen in all 3 seasons that we watched. And you're like, yeah, like even in a group, like the group of 4 90-pound dudes don't want to fight that guy.
Yeah.
Because he's still going to like kill all of them.
Yeah.
Or the Marines, really, even the white Marines, like nobody wanted to fight them because they knew they would be effective.
Yeah.
So like the one time, there was a Marine who was upset at the other guy for claiming he was a Marine. And then the gang members were going to fight him because he was kind of just picking on an old man.
Yeah.
In a big perspective.
Yeah, they just thought
they had to,
really,
do the
like
brain, the thought experiment with a whole group of Bloods to get them to be like, so if somebody said they were a Blood, you wouldn't jump in and beat them up? And they were like, well, you've seen us do that. So you're right, we would do that. And they're like, so this is guys saying he's a Marine and he's not a Marine. And they were like, well, what do you want us to do about it? And then they given a solution. They're like, I wrote a test that said, if you know these information, then you're a Marine. And then they tested it on a random guy who was also a former Marine. Because also, having a bunch of ex-Marines in jail is just commonplace, something we shouldn't be okay with. So anyway, pushing past that point, we got these guys solving this test on who's a former Marine, and then the Bloods connecting brain cells for the first time in like probably a couple years. And they're doing great. They come around. They have a sensible argument, and they go over and talk to the guy, and they say, oh, you don't know the information that these guys knew, so you're not therein a Blood/Marine. They kind of make it they work within the tribal mentalities because that's all they have, because they have to.
Yeah.
And, it's working there, and it kind of all worked out.
But, they ultimately it was cool because
it gave them something to do for like an afternoon.
Well, yeah, and, because it wasn't. It was just it was a different avenue of still enforcing the same rule of like that space.
Yeah, it was definitely shame.
Where it's like, don't be fake.
Yeah.
It's like, stop pretending to be something you're not. Like, that's definitely something that seems to permeate the entire culture of jail.
Absolutely.
Is just like, if you're lying about shit, then no one's going to trust you about anything.
Right.
So it's like, even if you aren't someone who's like the toughest guy in there, it's like, you better at least show that you know that.
Yeah, be honest.
Yeah. Otherwise, someone's going to try to beat the shit out of you.
Yeah. I mean,
in some form or another, but usually with their hands.
Yeah. I think one of the weirdest ones, too, was the gentleman who went in and was just using his food to barter and get in good with everybody.
The sheriff was like, he's being taken advantage of.
Yeah, it kept showing the sheriff and being like, he's being taken advantage of. I don't know.
This isn't going to work. County
this isn't going to work out for him. And then it cut back to the guy, and he'd be like, I'm making all these friends. Everybody likes me. I'm giving a little bit of food here, little chips there. Who cares? And you're like, I kind of agree with both of you. You're not getting jumped, and everybody does like you.
He seemed to be pretty like relatively happy and content for what was this still based situation. He was just I'm just doing the thing.
I think the sheriff
They've got my back.
I think the sheriff maybe just wasn't
thrilled.
I mean, you're not watching a person 24 hours. You're just seeing scenes shown to you by the team.
Yeah.
So it's like, he doesn't know, he doesn't know what it feels like to be around 6 guys and them actually not be tense, to be like, oh, okay, I'm suddenly calm because you gave me some chips.
Yeah.
It's like that feeling is way better than thinking you're being taken advantage of. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I think the sense of being taken advantage of is different than the sense of doing people favors that is working because you're next to them for 100% of your time.
The difference is knowing.
Yeah, the difference is knowing, for sure.
Because if
it's intuition.
Well, if you're aware of it and then you allow it to continue for your own benefit, then that's intentional. That's strategy.
Right.
That's not being taken advantage of.
Right.
Like I think you can only be taken
playing
advantage
chess, not
of
checkers.
if you're being manipulated and you're unaware of some of the benefit that's coming out of it for the other party.
Right.
I think that's more being taken advantage of.
Right. And I mean I would say that probably happened a little bit.
Yeah,
But it always got taken
a little
care
bit,
of.
especially too at the beginning, where he was still trying to like establish just being there, and like dude was like using his like tablet for like hours, stuff like that.
Yeah,
and it's just like, oh man, this kind of sucks. But he got better.
Until
the sheriff was then like, all right, I'm moving you to the other block, and you're just like, what? He's like, I'm just worried about him. They keep taking advantage of him. And like, we saw him when he left. Even when he left the other side, he had a giant bag of food.
Yeah.
It was just stuff.
Yeah.
With
and I'm pretty sure he did the same
chips.
exact thing when they moved him. He just kept making friends by giving people food. And it's like, I don't hate that idea either, because if you talk to...
Well, there are no cigarettes, so it's like, of course they're going to replace some form of classic currency.
Well, yeah, but I'm sure some of the people in there like don't have somebody outside feeding them money to buy stuff with.
Absolutely.
So it's also like, if you talk to a guy who's eating like the trash they give you every day, and then nobody's offering him some food, then like that's the chance to be like, oh, hey, here's a fucking bag of fucking chili Fritos. And the guy's just like, chili Fritos?
Yeah.
These are my favorite flavor of Fritos. It's not even regular flavor Fritos. And you're like, I know. Those are an extra 25 cents. So when you see somebody beating me up for the amount of 25 cents worth, take him down. And he's like, I got you. And then he goes and talks to his friends who haven't been giving him snacks because they're not nice.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, it's like, you build relationships with it. And like, well, food is such an important part of like human connection. Like, if you want to make someone your friend, you feed them. Like,
and that I feel like is
such a classic, like,
I feel like that's the disconnection that obviously the employees and the sheriff have, is it's like being in there is almost like a state of psychosis.
Yeah.
It's like if you're not given other stuff to do. And then I guess was at the end of season 5 was when he, or maybe 3, was when the guy said like that they had GED programs and like college credit programs, but nobody had ever told the jailed people.
Well, there was a guy saying that
trying to think of a better way to say it, because they're not prisoners technically; they're just jailed peoples.
Yeah. Well, the guy, I think I remember him talking about it, where he said like he applied for it, or like he wanted to talk to someone so he could apply for it, and they never sent someone to him.
Yeah.
But so he knew about the program. They told him about the program, but no one was ever coming there to the jail to talk to them like about how to actually do it or like help them with the process.
But I thought I remember the guy saying nobody, like that he knew that it was offered, but that nobody had told them going into it. Which like why would you? You're going through intake, pulling crack out of somebody's butt. You're not necessarily like, hey, now's a great chance for you to get your GED.
Yeah. Definitely maybe not the best place for it.
That's what I would do. Just showering them off. Like, hey, have you ever thought about just do it every day? Just wake up in the morning, look in the mirror and say, keep offering those jail peoples to get their GED.
I imagine that it could be very hard, I'm sure, in this situation.
Got to slip it in there somewhere.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, tell them about the GED course. For the love of God, we got to help these inmates.
Right.
We got to keep them occupied. Give them some board games. Oh, I guess you don't want them turning stuff in.
You don't want to give them board. We're going to give them Mousetrap, and then you come in an hour later, and all the different pieces have been used for different forms of shanking.
Why would I ever give them Mousetrap? They're already
in enough. Give them Operation.
They're already in enough pain.
You're going to give them Operation, so you give them the insight on how to specifically get a person from. You're like, I'm going to get your bowl of noodles that's in your belly. I'm going to get that wishbone out of your throat. And they're like, this didn't work. We gave them Operation, and they actually tied it to a guy's nipples in the corner. Well, and they've been electrifying him for an hour.
Oh, I was about to say, I was going to say, like, they somehow made a pipe bomb or something. Yeah. Like wires and shit.
Oh, yeah, there are wires, yeah.
I guess internal wiring. For a second, I was like, "Is there a wire connected to the tool?" And I'm like,
"Or you give them shit. What's the one with the people where you stick them down? Life. Guess who? You give them Guess Who, and they end up just talking about like their victims or people they're gonna get when they get out. They're like, he doesn't look like my bro Jim, who has a mustache, who I'm gonna find when I'm out of here. And they're like, all right. Putting down all the mustached people.
How about...
Like, he doesn't look like Janice. who has blue eyes, and I'm going to stab her in the eyes when I'm out of here. Okay, no Janice. You're flipping down the little tiles, people with blue eyes. They're doing weird personal violence stories with one description in there that you know is the Guess Who. You're like, oh, okay, so no bald men. Like, I hate bald boys.
Or you'd have like Cards Against Humanity with like, even
No, you can't do that. That's giving them ideas.
With some write-in card, those write-in cards too, and like you have like setups where it's just like, like blank is responsible for my blank, and you're just like, that snitch lawyer is responsible for my incarceration. Stuff like that.
Blank getting out of blank. I'm never getting out of here.
Yeah.
No, you don't want to give them that, though. That'll give them ideas.
No,
They'll be lining up different words and things, planning their next robbery is like a Mad Lib.
Like a Rob Lib.
Like, yeah. They're like, I was in the bank next week on a wacky Tuesday with a slimy gun.
Hey, it's part of the GED program. We're learning out here.
Gotta learn some adjectives.
But ultimately, yeah, like I would, based off of what we've seen so far, and it looks like we're about to watch the worst one yet. These jails definitely need to be improved, and it's a good thing they sent
I got
these
really
people in
excited
here.
talking about board games in prison.
Oh yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
I mean, I would love some board games, but maybe part of the problem is
Jail.
too.
I'm sorry, it's not prison, it's jail.
Yeah, jail. They're probably not going to be able to do that show in prison. Without someone actually
Absolutely
dying.
not. The staff would get stabbed on site. On site.
Yeah, get those cameras out of here.
On God.
On God. Well, but they've had shows where you've got cameras inside of prisons and stuff, and inmates being interviewed.
Yeah, but that's not the like in the wild. Like
That's
there were
fair.
times,
Yeah, just having set up cameras.
and
that would
that's something
probably
else
be
I was
different.
something else I was going to bring up. Was that they had to have made an agreement with the people in the cells that like you're not going to get any charges added for everything we record you doing. You have to get caught, but it's not going to be a big deal if you're getting recorded doing it. Because all the fights, like you don't want to get caught doing the fights, but it's on camera. So it's like they had to have signed away like not signed away the legality of it, but like
I don't know.
nothing on recorded that can be used like against them. It seems like because obviously those girls were doing the stuff on camera
drugs.
and then saying in front of the sheriff at the rap party when they were just like,
Yeah.
why did you do those drugs? And they were like, because I had to fit in. And they're like, what if you got caught? And you're like, isn't this getting caught? You're talking about it right now on camera. But I guess what's the statute of limitations for
maybe
being fed some crap by another person?
I think you might be right because because they said you were risking an actual like charge, but that was if they're getting caught by the corrections officer specifically.
Right.
So I mean they'd have to have had those protections.
Right. Yeah, I would think so. I would think the
to not
sheriff
just be like, all right, we're going to prosecute you for everything that you're doing when you're in a jail on screen.
I would say the only guy who probably could get away with having had not been on camera was the guy who smoked weed. Because he just wasn't even on camera the whole time, like a smart person. But
right, yeah, those ladies were just like, I'm gonna do these drugs right in front of this camera.
Yeah, that
Woo!
was bizarre. I didn't like that at all.
That was a lot of drugs in the lady jails. Just a lot of drug use, like way out in the open. It was way more discreet in the dudes.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that too is because you don't want people just like coming to you for it all the time, or like I think because remember they said like the tendency is usually in the ladies they try to
a family
blocks they try to be more like a family, and guys it's usually more like fucking territory.
Yeah, who's in control?
Yeah. So I wonder if that's it.
Yeah, well, it's also plus.
It's interesting.
Actually, I could share kind of a personal story about that because that makes sense.
Yeah.
That they don't, because you don't want to be in a state of mind where you risk losing control. So why would you do like illicit random like things when you're in the group that has the respect? Because you don't want to do anything that loses you the respect.
Yeah.
So you want to stay like pretty sharp. When I visited my friend in Atlanta years and years and years ago after He'd already been well deep into the crypts, like hardcore. Like all of his pictures on Facebook were just like him and just like a sea of blue. It's like blue and black faces and white teeth. Like they're looking good, but they're all wearing blue. And you're just like, we used to go to church together. But no, a super good friend. And like I went and visited him and we talked about like hard, hallucinogens for the first time since we both left the like church or whatever.
Yeah.
And he talked about like, obviously he liked smoking, but he didn't like doing Molly, didn't like doing acid. He just didn't like doing anything that lasted any amount of time.
Yeah.
He was like, if I can't just like eat and come down from it, like I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And it's like his story was funny because he was like, first time he did like acid by himself at his house because it's the only place he felt safe enough to do it.
Yeah. I was thinking, I was like, it might be just have to do with safety.
Oh yeah. He lives off like a pretty major road, and like he said he was like tripping and he like tried to walk outside and like 3 semis just like passed him.
Whoa.
Like the road was probably, only a little bit far from his front doors. It was just like scared him so much that he was like, all right, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
And it's also like, you don't want to be, if you're riding that line of illegality, you don't necessarily want to be out for like 12 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the only reason, why we did it during like the nighttime, because daytime was like work time when that's where you have to like move the stuff, keep growing the stuff, or do whatever. But at the nighttime you could do it because we were just irresponsible white guys. But nobody knew where we lived necessarily. Nobody was coming to pick up, and we didn't feel the need to keep any weapons on us. But I'm sure I knew Theo did. I mean, I knew that guy did. Shout out.
I can get that. No,
Shout out my bud.
I
No,
can
it's
cut
fine.
that name.
It's
Oh,
fine.
shout out? Okay, cool.
Nobody would know. It's fine. But yeah, that I just find that kind of connects to like why the guys weren't doing like anything that would actually carry through an amount of time. Like you smoke a little bit at night, or the guys that were, I guess, doing that H were doing it probably at night.
Yeah,
but it can't last very long because then they're checking on you every few hours anyway.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about the sleep schedules those guys had to deal with.
Oh,
It's
real bad.
You probably remember that more than I do.
Yeah. Real quick before we do that, just in case the battery dies, y'all, I'm gonna just have us take a break.
Oh yeah.
Just cut this so we save it.
Nice.
Be right back.
Break time.
All right, we're back.
Yeah. We had for some reason my parents always had a box of Trivial Pursuit in the closet that never got used. I think we played Pictionary a little bit back in the day.
Yeah.
Tiny bit of Scrabble.
I played a lot of Scrabble with my parents. Definitely a decent amount of word games. Boggle.
I thought it was weird to have Trivial Pursuit in a house that like is religious, that we don't consume any media, and it's a game about knowing like all media
And questioning
and
things.
questioning media and questioning this or that is
Questions and media.
a weird, bizarre
Very
game to have on
interesting.
hand. Trying to remember that one that kind of blew up. It had one of the game modes had like some clay in it.
Clay.
Do you remember? It had a really weird name. There was like a drawing element,
Ooh.
an act out element, a
Hard
clay. There was like a blue ball of clay in it.
I think I vaguely know of what you're talking about, having seen it, but I couldn't tell you the name, and I never played it.
Hopefully someone's yelling it right
but
now.
you're trying to.
They ended up having a whole brand of fucking board games because that one.
where you're
popped
trying to
off.
basically demonstrate an idea, I guess, and have someone guess what it is, right? So it's just different versions, I guess, of the core concept of Pictionary.
Yeah. And you always just were wanting to get the fucking sculpt because that's the funnest one.
Yeah, because you're playing with sculpting.
Playing with
I
Play-Doh,
could see
it's
that.
great.
Yeah, as soon as you said that, I'm like, well, of course you would just play with the Play-Doh.
Why would you want to do any of the other ones? Get an act out and you're just like, this isn't why I'm playing this game.
Did you ever hear of the game Grape Escape? It's a Play-Doh based board game.
No, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, you just make little like characters using a mold, and you're like, your grapes at your core. Like that's, there's a purple, there's a green Play-Doh. I think, there's probably pink and some maybe a blue. But you mold these characters that are grapes. But then, you would travel along this board game, but there would be different traps that would like one was just like a cutting device, one was like a gear thing. Your guy would be like, "Oh, you're not going any further. You get rolled into."
Oh, it just messes up your little Play-Doh ball.
Yeah, your Play-Doh man.
That's so
your character
fun.
gets ruined.
Oh
yeah.
my god,
And like there was a pair of scissors. I think. Like,
Whoa.
Yeah, it's called Grape Escape.
that sounds awesome.
Awesome.
So cool.
But I found myself just making different things and torturing them way more than actually playing the game.
Right. So in the sense of putting that board game in a jail, that's what they would do.
Yeah.
They'd be like, these are all great ideas. The game was called Cranium. I looked
Cranium?
it up.
Oh,
Cranium.
yeah. I've definitely seen the Cranium box, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
never played it.
Yeah.
I was a huge fan of Apples
like
to
that.
Apples, which was like the precursor to Cards Against Humanity, or
yeah.
the gateway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it looked
I've
like
definitely
that.
seen Cranium. I played Cranium, now that I think about it, but
I didn't really like Apples to Apples. But that was at a weird time in my life because my parents
Yeah.
were pitching it at every party we went to. And I was like, stop trying to get everybody here to play Apples and Apples. So embarrassing.
that's what we were doing. Like if we went to family friends' houses, we were bringing that with us.
Yeah. No, exactly.
People were
yeah.
just like, this is great. And
Right.
then it became Cards Against Humanity a little bit. Now it's it's a game called
Cyanide and Happiness, probably.
no, it's not the Cyanide Happiness one, but I like that one. It's called Code Names, and basically it's just I believe a 25 card grid made out of just cards with words on them or phrases or like some. I don't think there's any proper nouns, and basically you have.
That sounds super boring.
No, it's not. No, seriously, it's crazy because it's all about trying to like read the people that you're on teams with. I'm trying to figure out the best way to describe it.
Where do the
succinctly.
hungry hippos come into
There
play?
are no hungry hippos. So yeah, you've got this 25 card grid. You say it's the team that starts first has to get one extra point because they have an extra point bonus of starting first, basically. And the key thing is to guess which names or whatever the cards say, like those specific cards, because it's about just getting all your cards right.
So we don't give the people in jail code name. So that would make them angry.
I'm just not ever going to describe
Sounds
things
terrible.
ever
No, it's
again.
funny. No, it's good.
Ever.
I'm just thinking of board games they'd like. I just don't think they'd like that one.
Well, the
Do you ever play the one with the hammer out the ice?
Wait, yeah. Don't break the ice. The funny thing about Codenames is so far I've not played it with anyone hasn't been like, this seems really complicated. But then you play it and then they're like, this is great.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone I've played it with has been like, I want to play more of that.
That's funny.
And so it's just about basically trying to get people to guess these cards. And, basically, say there are 4 people playing, 2 people have a master card sheet that just shows which cards are going to belong to which team. And there's just a handful of them are going to be your points. You just want the people to guess those cards. The rest are duds, and there's one card that makes you lose automatically, and that changes too. So you just draw a card that'll show this assignment. And they're different words. They're collections of things like UFOs, boats, like random shit.
I'm sorry. I'm laughing.
It's all good.
It just makes you think of that.
Sounds crazy.
Makes you think of that Family Guy bit where Lois is trying to get them to spend more time together, and she starts explaining that super complicated card game.
Yeah.
Peter kills himself and ends up in hell, and the devil's explaining to him that card game that he just tried to get away from.
That's funny.
Oh my God.
Well, that's the answer to why people don't like board games, because they just don't want to like hear an explanation and learn a thing.
I mean, I just think the spectrum of getting involved in a new card game versus like, here's a wacky toy setup for you to fuck around with.
Don't
It's
call
a
it
spectrum of
don't call it
board
a card
games.
game. It's not a card game.
But where's the board?
It's based in, there's
Is
no
there-
board.
Then it's not a board game.
It's based in cards, but it's not a card game. There's too much loaded connection to the term card game.
Why? It is the game where you use
You
cards.
say card game, and you think what do you think of when someone says card game?
Like
What comes to mind first?
5 card, whatever.
5 card draw, stuff
Yeah,
like that.
stuff like that.
exactly.
But it's not
classic
inaccurate.
52 card games.
But it's not inaccurate.
No, it's technically a game with cards.
I mean, I would say it's a game. It's a card game before I'd say it's a game of cards.
No,
Because-
I'm saying a game with cards. I'm not saying a game of cards.
Okay.
But it's about names. It's just about words.
But if there's no board, then you can't technically call it a board game.
True.
Because it has, I mean, even if there were cards, like I played that super boring, like monster one with Brian and Hannah back in the day. And it was cards, and you like moved pieces around, and it was like you like shot missiles at each other as like big monsters or whatever, and it was like okay, but it didn't like grip me even though it was on a board. But I think it's a spectrum. If it's a spectrum of what grabs your attention.
Well, that's a cardboard game.
Yeah. I mean, Catan is also a cardboard game, but it's also a real board game, if you know what I'm saying. You play it when you're bored, and then you make yourself even more bored.
But this is exactly my point. I wouldn't want to play.
But people love that game, so I mean, just understand it's a spectrum.
Of course, I understand it's a spectrum.
Fine.
Okay, so with code names, though, basically, let's say we're on the same team. I can see which cards are mine, and you basically, the only thing I would do to give you clues would be to say a number that designates how many of the cards I'm trying to get you to guess. So I could say 1, insert whatever,
I'll make it better. It's okay. Just keep going. I'm sorry.
Okay. And so basically, you say a number to designate, hey, this is how many I'm trying to get you to guess, and then you're only allowed to say one word to try and get someone without saying exactly that word that's on the card or cards. And if they get it, then you get a point. And if not, then you either find out if it's a dud one or the other team's point or the kill card that ends the game and automatically wins it for the other team. And that's it. You just do that back and forth. And, it's just an aggregate. Like, it's just really, it's kind of like the thrill of Cards Against Humanity where you're playing the person's brain, trying to figure out how to get them to conceptualize that idea by saying one word on your end. So that's why it's called code names. It's just you trying to be like, hey, one, like say the words cat. I'm gonna be one for, feline. So that's an easy one. But some of them are like Berlin.
Yeah.
You can only say one word. So it's just like one. For you, I'd say
Crystal
grimace.
Knocked.
Oh, I would just say grimace. Yeah, and see, and like you would get that reference, but I doubt anyone listening would get that.
I get that.
Yeah,
I can see that.
So it's about trying to figure out interpretation within each other's heads.
Right.
So that's the core of the game. So it's not like a card game, but it is a card-based game.
Right.
It's not a game on cards. Well, they're on cards, but it's not.
Personally,
on cards.
I don't like most card games anyway, if any of them. So it's okay.
It's not a card game.
DOA. Well, I mean, I don't really like Cyanide and Happiness. I don't really like Cards Against Humanity. I think a lot of them are. I don't know. I don't want to insult anybody.
Well, I mean, we can be all. Hey, if you're adult enough to play that game, you're adult enough to disagree with it.
I just felt like there's always been periods of like weirdness whenever I've played them with whoever I've played them with, where I'm just like, this is being more of like this is creating more social awkwardness than us just like hanging out and talking.
Yeah, well, that's because some people just don't know the comedy of it, and some people try to be funny. At least in my experience, and then you're just like, ooh, that's just a little weird for this audience.
That's why I just lean different ways when it comes to like what we're doing.
Yeah,
with games like that. I mean, there was the one time up on the mountain in Tennessee where we played with a few people, and somebody was not winning and having a good time, and I was just like, what are we doing here? Why did we even start? Yeah. Why do we even start doing this?
Yeah.
I was like, we could have just put on another movie, but smoked some more weed.
Ultimately,
and then
I don't
whatever
think
happened,
that situation was because of the game.
That's fine. That's fine.
That's the person who's not having a good time, having a poor reaction to the game.
I don't disagree with that.
You can not like a game and still not be.
It just fluctuates. I've had a hard time finding those kinds of like people that are into it anyway. And by the time I did, I was over it, I guess is what. Because I mean, there's always been things at cons where it's like go and like play games and rooms and stuff. But I've always just been like, bah.
Yeah.
It's not in my wheelhouse.
Although, a quick question for you. Would you consider the digital card game you're playing a card game?
Yes, and it's a problem. But that's a different part of my brain. Okay. I have a collector's problem.
Because my brain was just like, he's been playing this
is
card
an entirely
game.
different. It's an entirely different subject that I can get into. I have a problem with wanting to collect things, and I compartmentalize that by collecting them digitally.
I've
things like
several different.
I've played.
Things.
I can probably. There's probably 4 games in the past couple of years that I played that are just. There's probably more than that. Probably more than 4 or 5 games that I played that are just collection stuff. Like all the Pokemons, like you can count them as like fighting RPGs, but like really you're just running around grabbing things,
collecting cards.
Yeah, and it's like I enjoy that aspect of it. I feel like maybe it's just my like poor mind that's like I can get stuff without having to necessarily pay like an extra fee. Like I've paid for the game, and the game is getting things. I feel like it's a There's definitely a brain
it's like
scratch.
Scratching the itch, but without having to continuously actually accrue real
for
items.
sure. And I had I had a problem where I was collecting some cards for a while, and I spent an obtuse amount of money.
Yeah.
And I think back on it sometimes, and I'm just like, what were you doing?
Yeah.
It was my Tomato Head money. I was spending some Tomato Head money for sure on card games. I think my biggest purchase was 4 for $120.
Yeah.
Four cards of the same card for $120. Wow. They're $30 each.
Wild.
Yeah.
I feel like I've definitely felt that, but with basically I just choose different things, and I always have to just like stop myself before I just fall too deeply into it. Because I started doing it with like I've done it with watches, I've done it with like knives, throwing knives. Like growing up, especially in the South, and like having the family I have, like as far as like doing things in West Virginia, like healthy amount of weapon interest. When I was younger, I was just like, oh, to get all these blades. My parents were always just like, you don't need that, you don't need that, you don't need that. And then and like eventually I was just like, I don't need these things. But then here's games. You're gonna try and get games now. And then,
I feel like that definitely
like the watches. I've done it with the sunglass thing there for a minute.
Right.
I really like sunglasses.
I feel like just collecting games themselves, if you don't find
books
like a specific interest ahead of time, like it becomes like a bit of a hole. Like if you're not collecting for like an aesthetic, or you're not collecting a genre, or you're not just collecting like as for a collector's sake, you're just like buying them all up for like a period of time, like that'll make you depressed.
Yeah,
because like you're gonna end up owning a bunch of things that
rocks.
You don't care about.
Definitely collected a ton of rocks.
Yeah. Rocks are cool. Rocks hang out.
Oh yeah, no, I don't regret any of that. But that's probably what I've spent the most money on in a compressed amount of time.
Yeah.
Other than when I was buying all those bleach bits too, that was a brief moment where I was just like, this not this volume.
Right. Well, I mean,
I got to like 15, and I was just like, all right, I can't. This isn't sustainable.
I would consider that different. If you do read books, that's more of just trying to buy like a book.
Oh yeah,
it's just a big one.
Books.
It's just a really big long.
I'll spend money on books all year long.
But
no problem there.
Yeah, I think I still have like a deck in my closet that at one point was probably worth $300.
Yeah,
and it's probably now like $50 at most.
Well,
just because like I was trying to do a thing, and then I was like, I'm tired, and then also like had some relationship shit where I was like trying to be like, we were both kind of playing it, even though I was buying all the cards because I had a problem.
Yeah.
you can't fill a relationship hole with cardboard crack. Let me tell you that right now. It doesn't work.
Crackboard.
And that's also the card game thing. That's where I'm saying like some people really don't get.
Are you winking at me?
A group of people, not you, don't really get into card games, and that's where like explaining a new card game like from the get-go won't really like be engaging. Like
true.
But I don't disagree that it is fun, and it's definitely a good social icebreaker for normal social people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's see.
For sure.
If someone was to ask me,
there's a reason it's popular.
I don't
I'm definitely being a contrasting opinion.
Yeah. Well, so here's my thought. Like, I'm trying to obscure it from thought, so I don't have my answer yet. Like, if I were to try, like, be like, what's one game you would really recommend to someone to play to just like pass the time, or like in that sort of scenario? So like, see, like first maybe I'm thinking like, I personally really like Monopoly, but I know that gets really contentious and can be a real problem for a lot of people. So like, I'm not sure if there is a game that I would recommend.
I mean, I would say
maybe.
What are you gonna say? Go ahead.
So there's a game, a card-based game called Flux.
Oh yeah, no, you've definitely brought that one up.
That one is really interesting because it's just based. It's simple in how it functions, but the complexity that arises out of the simplicity and the chaos that comes out of it is really entertaining. But it can still get really competitive.
Yeah.
But it's also just like a fun, wacky thing because you just have rules, and you follow those rules. First rule, and it's like the main rule, is just draw a card, and then you got to discard a thing, and you've got a hand of cards, and they've got these different characters on them with different like features to the cards, and there are rule cards. So if you lay down a rule card, then that automatically becomes a canon rule for the current situation of the game that changes the play of the game. So then you have to play according to the first rule, draw a card, and then you do whatever that rule says. If it applies to anything that you have or you have an effect, lay down one of your cards that may affect the board. And if you lay down another rule, that's also in play. Or sometimes it'll be like, everyone with this type of thing has to like get rid of a hand. Or like, it basically just shifts the style of the game continuously.
Yeah.
But as ultimately you're just drawing a card and putting one down, and it's just the chaos between that. It's really fun. But could also
I would say the only one that people don't get upset over is like Jenga.
Actually,
I mean, I'm sure you could get a little upset, but that's the only one that ended up at like in plus size version at bars.
Yeah.
Because people can play it without getting into violence. They're like, oh, Jenga, it's my fault. It didn't work.
And it's not darts, so you're not like, it doesn't have like a weapon quality to it. I guess you could try to like blunt force a Jenga.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean,
especially those big ones. But that's not, don't do that. Don't do that, America.
You can throw them, but you just got to make them softer. Just balsa Jenga.
Oh,
Blenga.
Jalsa.
Jalsa. Yeah. Chaucer. He built Jenga with words.
Chaucer. Jeffrey. Jenga. Yeah. Right. Actually, balsa Jenga would be hard because it's so light to keep the structure. You just get the whole
sway.
No. I'm saying you try pulling out a block and it would just get caught on itself because balsa doesn't. There's not enough friction and weight ratio, so you don't have enough pressure to hold down the stronger, thicker blocks and pull other weaker, thinner blocks out. Because ultimately, Jenga is based off of incongruency in the block size and positioning and the weight distribution.
Yeah, weight distribution.
Yeah.
Well, and like them not getting like hung up.
Yeah, it's all about just the physics of how the
balsa
tower
was
stacks.
definitely porous. It gets sticky.
Yeah. Yeah, could you imagine like the difference of playing like balsa, like Jenga in like the desert versus, I don't know, rainforest? It's
right. It would expand.
You have
like
to train
puffy,
if you're going professional. If you're a
Jenga.
professional Jenga competitor and you're going to these different places in the world because you're on a world tour and like for the world championship Jenga, so you're like you got to train in desert climates. You got to train in tundras. Tundras are like deserts, but it's cold.
We're just dumping water on you in the rain.
Right.
Just trying to like still stack.
You're building a block and like your trainer just runs over and kicks it and like start over. You got to be able to
recreate what you just had from memory and then go from there.
Because these competitions don't just grade you on regular Jenga. They grade on your ability to set up a tower in conditions. They grade your ability to stop a tower from making too much noise when it falls.
Oh, that's just called your ability to Jenga.
Yeah.
It's a loaded word.
It's all part of it. Jenga
it's a complicated...
Jenga it's the way.
It's a concept, really, more than it is a game.
Yeah. Jenga is more of a state of mind.
Stack. Gotta stack.
That's the podcast title.
Jenga State of Mind.
State of Mind. Or a Jenga State of Mind.
Jenga State of Mind. That's good.
Which looks like we're at about hour 10. You want to call this one?
Yeah, it's good.
Hit it up with another cast.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys.
Guys, this was a really fun one. I'm looking forward to the next one.
See you next time.
See you next time. This has been the Hackurate Podcast. I'm Aaron Howell.
I'm Nathan Goodman.
Bye.